So Bob, we just talked about the U.S. economy and your general outlook for 2013, and I was hoping we could shift gears and focus on Canada. So do you have a general outlook for Canada in 2013, and also what sectors are you focusing on when you're taking a look at this?
Absolutely. I think Canada is a very interesting market. Overall, I think 2013 will be an interesting year for Canada. I think the growth rate will probably end up being a little bit lower than the 2.25% that I'm talking about in the U.S., say something in the 1.5% range for Canada, so just a little bit slower. And in terms of overall growth, and the mix of how we get there will be a little bit different as well.
Okay. And so when you're looking at Canada, let's talk about housing starts. What's going on in the housing market here?
Well, you know what? The housing market had been relatively strong in Canada, and back when we looked in 2004, it probably had one of the most, if not the most, affordable housing market around the world. But subsequently, there's been a kind of a run-up in prices a little bit, and now Canada is not as affordable as it once was, and now, in fact, the U.S. market is actually cheaper than the Canadian market, and certainly rates have come up a little bit. That's held things back a little bit. So housing is not quite the contributor that it was.
Okay, and is there any special indicators, anything you look at specifically in Canada that you wouldn't look at in the U.S.?
Well, there are things that I look at in the U.S., but let's talk about it. I talk about Canada, the tale of two countries. I mean, kind of part of the Eastern Canada tends to focus on what's happening in the U.S. markets, maybe in U.S. financial markets and in the U.S. auto industry, since a lot of auto plants are just across the border. In Canada, it's a big help to the Canadian economy and also to ours as well because of the free trade. But they tend to depend on that. And as I said, the autos are not growing quite as fast, but they're still a very nice sector of the economy. Western Canada tends to be a little bit more focused on some of the commodities, both agricultural and other commodities as well. And that market may be just a little bit slower. We talked about China being not quite as strong as we had thought it might be. And certainly that's going to hurt shipments out of Western Canada. So things there may be a little bit weaker than in Eastern Canada.
Yeah, I know Western Canada has their eyes on China. And we're also looking at Europe. So yes. Any comments on Europe right now and how it applies to the Canadian economy?
Well, you know, I think a lot of the exports, again, commodities and other things come out of Canada, and certainly Europe has been a weak market. I noticed the IMF reduced their growth expectations for Europe again this morning, and I still think they're not low enough. I think Europe may decline as much as 2% in 2013. So China and Europe will not be positive for either the U.S. Or the Canadian economies.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for your insight, Bob. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.